Hell yeah.
So you're alive, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
Every week I feel like I'm going to get a text from your sister and say, hey, just figured I should let you know.
Heads up.
Kevin's dead.
Hasn't happened yet.
He was in the hospital for a few days, but he died. He passed away last night.
Yeah, I mean, hasn't happened yet, but
It's good.
who knows?
A lot of close calls.
Very close calls.
Yeah.
CPR for 7.5 minutes.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's a good story.
Yeah, it's a great story.
Yeah.
Do you ever tell chicks this?
No.
Yeah.
I could. People have told me to use it for the sympathy.
Yeah.
I don't. I feel like that's cheating.
Yeah, it's
Like-
cheating. I'm already 6'4".
I'm like, you can't give me
right,
too much
come on.
material.
I just broke 200. All right, guys.
Yeah.
Look.
Yeah. So I keep it away from people and then I slowly introduce it.
Right.
You know, I'm like, oh, every Thursday when I'm gone for like 6 hours. Yeah, I'm actually at, my oncologist's office.
Oncologist.
Yeah.
Doesn't that stand for cancer?
Pretty much. Yeah.
Oh, God. What's wrong with you, Kevin?
Well, that's the thing. You got to like warm them up to it.
Yeah. You can't tell someone you've got cancer immediately.
Right. I always, then eventually bring in, I have an undiagnosed disease. And-
Wow, undiagnosed? Well, what are the effects of it? Like, what does it make you feel like?
Feels like I'm having a heart attack.
Oh, wow. You feel like you're having a heart attack.
Yeah.
So it's always your heart.
Yeah. So
Wow.
it's cardiac underlying, we know.
Wow. Cardiac underlying.
Mm-hmm.
And when did this start?
March 24th, 2022.
2022. What happened around that time?
So that was, always knew I had a like peanut cashew allergy.
Yeah.
Eating in my dorm room. So, and like I had such low levels of the IgE, the allergic cell,
Yeah.
that my allergist like, you'll be fine. You might get a little scratchy throat, but you'll be fine. So eating in my dorm room one night, all of a sudden this awful chest pain. I'm like, this seems like anaphylaxis. Like I'm eating
Yeah.
and that hurts. Now I can't breathe and I'm swelling. Eventually, a friend finds me, takes me to the public safety office. They call 911. They come, they give me the epi, and everybody's like for 5 minutes just standing there looking around. And I'm twitching in the chair, about to pass out. And they're like, we got to take him right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. Thought the epi's like, the magic thing. Like,
Right.
You take it, and then you walk away.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, but I've never used one. So I was like, okay, this is probably normal. Go to the ER. They give me another epi. They're all kind of standing around. Nobody really says anything.
And you're still feeling your heart through the roof?
Oh, yeah. My heart rate's like 190. Face is all swollen. I can't speak. My throat's closing, shaking. I'm super flushed as well. And then the ER, in my room, in the ER, there's a doctor and there were 7 nurses when I came in. And I was like, that doesn't seem normal. It seems like a lot. And then I hear the doctor, and the problem is you can hear everything while it's happening. And I hear the doctor say, I've
Right.
never seen this before. I don't know what to do. I'm like, this is anaphylaxis. What are you talking about? Like,
It's not comforting, Doc.
yeah, I'm like, this is supposed to be an easy thing.
Yeah.
And she says to me, she's like, okay, you got 3 minutes. If your throat doesn't stop closing, we have to put you under, move you to the ICU, and we're going to incubate you. Or
Nice.
however you say that word. And
Yeah.
like, and again, I can't respond. So I'm like, oh, like, twitching, nodding my head.
Yeah.
Just give me, ton of steroids, ton of Benadryl. I have an IV in both arms.
Yeah.
30 minutes go by. I'm like, okay, start coming out of it. They then come in the room and say, hey, your potassium's so low. You're almost at the lethal limit. I'm like, I eat a ton of food. Like, how's that possible?
Yeah.
We don't know. So they give me potassium, leave at 2 a.m. Nobody knows what happened. Go to my allergist. He says, doesn't sound like anaphylaxis because my blood pressure spiked. It's supposed to drop. It's supposed to become hypotensive. I was hyper. And it's kind of a weird thing. Nobody really knew what was going on. My allergist said it could be idiopathic anaphylaxis, where it's just random. He said it's kind of more of a theory. They don't really know what is actually happening, but it's just the symptoms of that. And they said, we don't even have a trigger food that you ate. We're assuming something was cross-contaminated. and your blood levels are so low. You shouldn't have this. Saw another specialist. He said, okay, sounds like an allergy issue. You'll be fine. Don't eat nuts. I was like, well, I for months kept no. I was like, something. I was like, that's not right.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, no, it just can't be.
I remember that night too.
Yeah.
Like that you were telling me the next day.
Yeah, I remember. I got back at like 3 a.m. Went had an 8 a.m. class. I show up. My arm is all bruised from all the IVs, and like I remember like a couple of my friends were in the class and they're like, "What the hell happened?" Like it's like supposedly anaphylaxis, but not really sure. And nobody could tell me why I had chest pain. That was the other weird part. And then nothing till November 6th, and was on the 90 freeway driving home to my apartment one night. Apple Watch has my heart rate at 180. Feels like I'm having a heart attack. I'm like, this feels like the anaphylaxis. I thought I was going to pass out behind the wheel, but I was like, I got to keep driving. I never thought, oh, I should
pull over.
There's a hospital a block off the freeway. If I just turn right instead of left towards my apartment, I'm at the ER. Like, I'm not going to the ER.
Yeah.
Crawl up the stairs of my building where I see my roommate walk out of the room, walk the other way down the hallway. And I'm like yelling. He has headphones in. I'm like, oh shoot.
God.
And he has the trash. I'm like, I know he's coming back. He finds me on the floor of our kitchen. I'm like, I think anaphylaxis. Take the epi, inject myself. Same thing. We wait like 5 minutes. Nothing.
So when you're crawling and you're like, your heart rate's through the roof, what else are you feeling? To be like,
I'm dizzy, disoriented, feel like I'm going to throw up. And it's just this chest pain is horrible.
Got it.
Feels like my heart's about to explode.
Yeah.
And do the epi. I'm like, okay, take me to the ER right now. Once again, I'm like, and this time I was prepared. I had these plastic sheets made that have the instructions from my allergist saying, you know, he has idiopathic anaphylaxis. Give him X, Y, and Z. Here's the phone numbers for my parents. Like, this is what to do.
Yeah.
Hand this to the person I'm barely speaking. And they take me to the back, start treating me for anaphylaxis, and then my arms start turning inward like that. Everything locks. It's like I'm paralyzed. It hurts a ton. I can't move anything. My face becomes...
It's that constant isometric.
Yeah, it's like every muscle in my body. It's like, it's the best workout I've had in months. Might do this more. And then all of a sudden I start feeling like my feet start kind of curling upward. And like, I can't move my legs, my arms, my face. And they're like, okay, because you're hyperventilating, you don't have oxygen, it leaves your limbs first. I was like, okay, that makes sense. But they wouldn't let my mom in the back because they said it's like such a shocking thing for someone to see. They don't want anyone to see it. So they give me Ativan, which is really for like seizures and anxiety kind of stuff, knocks me out. And so, you know, I wake up a couple hours later, still have chest pain, but everything else is okay. And they're just kind of like, we don't think it was anaphylaxis. Could have been a panic attack. And I thought, well, it's driving on the freeway. How does a panic attack fit into this?
I've been screening all these calls. I'm not even talking to anybody.
It's like,
I'm not stressed at all.
yeah, I haven't checked my phone in days.
Yeah. Got 1,000 emails I haven't even read.
And I'm like, there's no way. Go to my doctor. He says, go to this cardiologist. They do the basic, you know, like the treadmill tests, that kind of stuff. Do great on everything. You know, my treadmill test is the same like level, I guess I hit that Kawhi Leonard, one of the NBA players, hit. So I'm like, okay, like seems fine. And he's like, I think it's a freak accident. Meanwhile, I still have chest pain. So I think if this is a freak accident, it's not going to happen again.
And this chest pain comes at you while sitting, the moment you stand.
Random
Pain.
Sitting, sleeping, driving, working out. It's just completely random.
And it's always been the same since. Just
Yeah.
random pain.
Yeah. And so they just kept saying something went wrong. Could have been an arrhythmia in the moment kind of thing. Said, okay, fine, but I'm still in pain. Saw another cardiologist who was he said, maybe your esophagus is spasming. And so he said, here, try these meds. Started taking them, didn't do anything.
And that cardiologist was at what time?
That was now in December. That was December 15th.
So a month later
Yeah.
of 2020 or 22.
2022. Yeah. Then I was home for Christmas break the whole time. You know, I was waking up at 3 a.m. with rolling around in chest pain. I was like, this doesn't seem right. But at the same time, I thought, they don't know what's going on. It's got to just be like my esophagus or something.
Yeah. And that chest pain, was it constant throughout the day and then just like exacerbated in the middle of the night?
No, it could be gone. I think for 2 days I was fine.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it was like, I thought, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
And I always just assumed, I was like, I'm at the time 20 or 19.
Yeah.
I was like, can't be having a heart attack at 19. That doesn't happen. I'm in good shape.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, don't know what's happening. And I just kind of dealt with it. And then continued. Nobody could figure it out. The medication for my esophagus wasn't doing anything. And then one day I was leaving the gym, had to go to my parents' house. And I'm driving there, like 15 minutes away, and the chest pain comes on really bad. The worst has come on. Start shaking, the whole thing. Get to my parents' house, I go throw up. And at that point, my parents come downstairs. Like, what's going on? I'm shaking so much, I can't do anything. Sitting in kind of a bar stool, I'm like gripping the table.
That's the video you sent me.
Yeah.
And so that is January
That's January 19th.
of 2023.
22. Or 23, yeah.
23.
Yeah.
So a little over a year ago.
Yeah. And I'm like trying to hold on to the table because I can feel my arms wanting to go in. I'm like, I don't want to do that again. So I'm going to keep holding this thing. And I'm so disoriented. The chest pain's so bad. I can't breathe. I'm bright red. And I'm like, I can't move either. And then next thing I remember, I was on the floor laying down, my dad doing chest compressions on me. I couldn't tell him to stop. I remember like I could feel it, but I couldn't do anything. I tried moving my arms, nothing moved. Tried talking, nothing. He tried just opening my eyes so he could see like I'm okay. Nothing. I can hear the 911 operator telling him, keep going.
You couldn't even open your eyes.
Couldn't do anything. It was almost like it was a dream.
Yeah.
It was strange. And it could have been. I mean, we don't know.
Well, we do know because I saw video of it.
Well, yeah. But like we don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Right. We don't know if my heart stopped or not. Paramedics come, they do the EKG. They're like, seem fine. Your vitals are fine. Your blood pressure's high, but that's it. And so they take me to the ER. Once again, they give me the Ativan. They're like, has to be a panic attack. Can't be anything else. And I'm just like, how's that possible? Like I've never had a panic attack.
And then why does a panic attack would never make you muscularly tense
That's what
up?
I'm like, how severe does it have to be to cause these symptoms? Like, I feel like that, I would think there's precursors to all of this. You know,
Right.
maybe if I had this for 10 years, you know, now I could be at this point where I'm having these horrible reactions. But it was like out of nowhere, and I don't feel stressed or anything. So it's like, okay, this is weird. You know, so they let me go. My cardiologist says, go to the hospital tomorrow, that we're going to admit you. Of course, they admit me. Then they say, okay, well, you're also COVID positive. I'm like, okay, well, I feel fine. So I made them do 4 tests in the span of a day.
Yeah.
But they're like, well, since you have COVID, we can't do anything for you. So I got to see a couple of doctors, but they couldn't do any tests. They're like, come back next week. We'll start doing more heart tests. So come back on the next Friday, the 26th. And they do a CT angiogram, completely normal. That night, same episode happens. I never lost consciousness, but ER the whole thing.
And that's 2 days later?
That's a week later.
A week later.
A week later, or 8 days, I think.
Yeah.
And at this point, everybody's like, what is going on? Still had only seen the cardiologist. I'd now started talking to a gastroenterologist for the esophagus ideas. She kind of said they don't really fit. So then I, started following up more with him. Saw a neurologist. They did, the brain scan. Fine. They thought maybe I have a pinched nerve in my back that's radiating to my chest. Don't have it. So the neurologist was out pretty quickly. The GI found I have eosinophilic esophagitis, which is basically just swelling of my esophagus. So it's a pretty rare disease, but he's like, it only causes pain if food gets stuck going down. And he said, it's something to worry about, but it's not causing any of this. Fine. He says, here's some medication though, to help that, since it was an incidental find. Start taking it. I remember about a week later, I think I texted you. I was like, every time I work out, it feels like my skin's burning and I start scratching and I rip my skin off. And I remember you're the one that told me, said, tell a doctor. I said, could be the medication. They said, no, but if you want to not take it, go ahead. And I said, okay, I'm not going to take it. This only happens though when my heart rate's high when I'm working out. So I could start, I do just like under 130
Beats per minute.
yeah, for my pulse. And okay, it was okay. But it was everywhere but my arms and my hair, my feet, everything. And I remember like I'd be sitting in the locker room at the gym, I'd scratch and rip my chest apart. And I'd like look down and in my fingernails, there's blood and skin from my chest. And it was like, this can't be right. There's something's going on. And no doctor could piece that together. So that with chest pain doesn't make sense. And eventually it got to the point where I'd wake up in the middle of the night with this pain. So I couldn't sleep anymore. I couldn't do anything. Classes, I'd be sitting there and then all of a sudden it's like trying to rip my skin off. Nobody could figure it out. At that point, I'd probably seen 8 or 9 doctors. Everybody was like, yeah, we don't really know. Not my specialty. Go see this person. Nothing was happening though. Mm-hmm. They thought then there's a bunch of these small tumors called endocrine tumors. And the whole idea is maybe it's releasing adrenaline at random times, which means if they don't test me while it's actively releasing, there's going to be, you'll seem fine. But they said that could fit. It would spike your heart rate, spike your blood pressure. It could cause some skin irritation as well, just because you're so amped up. So they start doing all that testing. And meanwhile, I can't do anything. This is when I started losing weight. I think I was down about 12 pounds in 4 weeks. Couldn't eat. And it's just miserable. And that's when a doctor said, apply to Mayo Clinic. At this point, you need to figure this out because you're losing weight. So I go online. I put the little form in, explain what's going on. The 2 days later at 6 a.m., I get a phone call. It says, hey, we got your thing. We want to see you. We're not allowed to see you sooner than 2 weeks, but come in 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, perfect. And we have all this endocrine tumor stuff going on. So my thought is either I'll get diagnosed with that beforehand, and that's simple. They cut it out. You're fine. Even if it's cancerous, it doesn't spread.
Right.
So my hope is I have a tumor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds...
It's a lowly place.
It sounds great.
Your last hope is, I hope this is a tumor.
Yeah, like this is easy.
Yeah.
They start doing tests, but we don't complete everything, but it's not looking promising that I have it. So I go to Mayo in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota in April, and it's like 20 degrees, snow on the ground. It's miserable. Go to the first doctor, and there's an internist as your quarterback for the whole thing. And then she'll send me to whatever specialty they need. So I see her first day at like 6:30 in the morning. Does a full 2-hour long intake with me. And the only other appointment I had that day was with a psychiatric department. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, and they say it's mandatory. Everybody has to do it. So I'm like, okay, fine. Go there. The guy keeps trying to force this panic attack idea on me. And he says, I'm going to explain to you like a syndrome. You tell me if this sounds like you have chest pain, very random, high heart rate, high blood pressure, shaking, hyperventilating. I'm like, well, yeah, that sounds like it. And he goes, okay, so that's a panic attack. And I said, oh, but that's also the pheochromocytoma, which is the kind of tumor they thought I had. And I said, there's a lot of medical conditions that fit that. Like my symptoms aren't weird.
Right.
It's pretty common symptoms. I'm just not testing positive for any of this stuff. And he's, well, it could be a weird panic attack. And I said to him,
it sounds like a science term.
Yeah. Like, that sounds real professional.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what about the skin pain? It's like, I've never heard of someone with anxiety having, ripping their skin off.
Yeah. And
he says that it could be explained through the panic attack. And I said, okay, well, it started coming on at the gym. So how am I having a panic issue at the gym? And he says, well, I mean, you could have anxiety about something. And I said, if I have a dumbbell pressed up over my face, I'm not really thinking about a problem I have. Right. I'm thinking, don't let this thing drop on my face and smash me.
I'm actually at the gym to relieve anxiety and stress.
Right. And I said to him, I was like, I don't see how if a bar is about to, snap my neck in half, if I drop this thing, you expect me to be focusing on an issue I have in my life. And I'm sitting there and it's comedic to me.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to pull things together. And then he ends with, it's early in your evaluation here, but we could revisit this if nothing turns up. Then I read his note later. He says, I would suggest Lexapro, and it's a very atypical panic disorder he has, but it'd be worth a shot. I'm like, okay, great. Put me on an SSRI like everyone else. You never see me again. Problem solved in your book.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you are just destroying my life even more.
Thank you.
Sounds great.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and
May I have another?
You know I'm not coming back to Minnesota to see
Right,
you.
yeah.
It's like, it's a pretty good bet.
Right.
I saw a couple more specialists there. Nobody could figure it out. They said the EOE, the throat stuff I had, they're like, couldn't really cause any of this. But the guy says it is something to worry about. In 10 years, your throat could be so shut you can't eat anymore. I'm like, oh, cool. Thanks for letting me know. But I have this to deal with.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, thanks. I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah.
Go see, have a nerve function test, have all these MRIs, nothing. And I'm like, well, can I go see the endocrinologist? Can we finish this work? They say, oh, well, we can't book you before June. And I'm kind of like, let me get this straight. I came here. You guys were told I'll be here 2 weeks, and I'm going to see everybody I need to see to have a chance at figuring this out. And now you're saying I can't see him unless I want to come back in a couple months. They're like, yeah, we're just busy. Okay, fine. Last day, it's now a Friday. I got there on a Tuesday. I'm just go see the internist again to recap what we've done. And she says, we can't figure it out. You're welcome to stay and see more specialists, but I think you'll wake up in a year and just be normal. I'm like, great.
You went to school for this.
Yeah.
Nice.
And this is an 80-year-old woman who says, I've worked here for 50 years. And I said, what makes you think this? And she said, well, I've seen young patients like you before, and you look normal.
Oh.
And I said, well, doesn't
The old eye test.
that's what, and I said, well, doesn't that say something about how well I'm handling this? The fact that I still look presentable.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I said to her, I was like, how am I supposed to sleep? How am I supposed to move? I can't. The skin pain's so bad. She's just kind of clueless. And so I said, okay, well, fuck this place. I'm leaving. I'm not. So why would I stay in Minnesota if I don't have to? So I was supposed to be there 2 weeks, left after 4 days. Come back. I'm like, okay, endocrinology. That's the last thing. UCLA. Go see the endocrinologist there. Walks in the room. Says, read your file. Not a pheochromocytoma. I don't know what the hell this is, but it's not that. And I look at him and I go, one, thanks for stating it so nicely to me. Two, what is this? I don't know. Could be poisoning from toxins. I'm like, okay, well, how do we test that? He goes, he said to me, I'd suggest a sleep test where we watch you sleep. And I'm like, you're kidding me. You think having me hooked up on wires, watching me sleep is going to be the answer to this? I don't snore. I don't know why you think that'd be the issue. And he just kind of is like, I don't know, keeps talking to my dad. And then I asked him one question and I said, how am I supposed to live my life with this? And he looks at my dad and goes, I'm sure this is very hard for you to look at to see that what's happening to your son, but you'll get through this. He didn't look at me, didn't say goodbye to me, nothing. Walks out of the room. He had a fellow, or like a resident endocrinologist in the room who was speechless. And he just said, so I don't know what I'm supposed to do or if I'm supposed to put in a consult for someone else. And I was just like, I'm leaving. You guys don't care.
Yeah.
Clearly, I'm not worth his time.
Yeah.
So now it's April 15th. And then I had an MRI a couple of days later. There's no tumor in me.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, great. Middle of April, it's been happening. November 6th is really the real start of the whole thing. I'm only getting worse. I can't eat. I can't do anything. It's like, I don't know how you expect me to live my life like this. I, was still going to some classes, but it was pretty difficult. And every doctor I saw, just not my specialty, move on. And it's like, no one was even trying to help me.
Yeah.
So rest of April, didn't see anybody. In May, a friend that I have, who's members at my country club, said, go see this doctor. He's supposed to be the best oncologist in the country. It's kind of like, okay, don't really think oncology is what I need, but yeah. Oh, and the best part of before in April still, like a week after I got back from Mayo Clinic, I got a test back. That's like the range was like from 6 to 9. I'm at 14. And they told me if I'm high on this test, it means I have a tumor. And the kind of tumor would be cancerous. So I get back, I have this positive test now, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I have cancer.
Right.
Call the doctor there. Doesn't get back to me. So I'm sitting for 2 weeks thinking, oh, I have cancer now. This is great.
Yeah.
Would have thought like, I always pictured like, oh, the doctor calls you or something. No, this is on my phone. I got the message on the app. You have a test uploaded. I see it. I go, what's this result mean? Google it. Cancerous endocrine tumor.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And I'm looking like, it looks like you usually live through these things. They can cut it out.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the MRI says they don't have it. And
Yeah.
it turns out you have to be way above the range on these tests. I'm like, okay, well, someone should maybe
Explain that to me.
watch what is uploaded on my app
Yeah.
and maybe monitor things, because I could see where that might cause someone to have some issues.
Yeah. I might just have a panic attack. with
Yeah,
this.
God forbid.
I finally have a real panic attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then they're right.
Yeah.
And so I go see this new doctor. I spent 2 hours with him. In the same day, he has me do a full body CT, MRIs of my spine, brain, chest, everything. He runs probably 45 different blood tests. And I'm like, how did nobody else do any of this? And he's the oncologist. I'm like, we're not even in your specialty.
Yeah.
And you're doing this. And he said, he's done this for a while. He's seen people with these random things like me. He said, I kind of know what I'm doing with this. And I just have seen a lot of stuff. So I know what areas to look in.
Yeah.
And he said, I think this is a mast cell disorder. So I didn't even know what the term is. And it's basically has to do with allergies. It's kind of one of the cells that you cause allergic responses. Your mast cells can, you can have high amounts of them at random times. And he said it could fit. I said, okay, that does seem promising. The allergy thing does. And the problem is there's almost no test for it. There's like one 24-hour urine test where you collect urine, then they test it. But they said it's not even that accurate. And so it's for kind of the next month, we're just experimenting what's happening. In the meantime, I went to this acupuncturist. She gave me these herbs and they took away my skin pain. And it was like, well, that's strange. Nobody had an explanation for it. The box came in Chinese. I don't know how to read that. I don't know what the hell's in these things. It could be poison for all I know. But I'm like, okay. We got one thing gone, but we still don't even know what's hurting.
Wasn't the Lexapro?
No, the Lexapro, I refused.
Yeah.
And even they couldn't even force that in the final meeting with the doctor. She was like, yeah, we don't really have anything. And I go, oh, the panic attack disorder? She goes, yeah, that's not really the best solution.
Right.
I'm like, oh, wow, what a shock.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get the herbs.
Yeah, and it's great.
It's working.
And in the meantime, we're like, this chest pain's a real issue. I'm still going to the ER with this horrible chest pain. Over the summer, my blood pressure got to 203 over 120, which my cardiologist said, you should have gone into cardiac arrest. Don't know why.
Should be dead right now, Kevin.
Got lucky. Yeah. And he's like, did you go to the ER? No, I kind of sick of the ER at this point. I laid in bed.
Yeah.
And he's like, so he was asking me,
Great.
what's the process like? I was like, I had the blood pressure cuff on my left. I'm shaking, laying in bed, and I had my friend call me every 10 minutes. And I said, if I don't pick up, send someone. That's and she had a key to my house. I was like, I'm safe.
Yeah.
And so then over the summer, they do the bone marrow biopsy. Shows I have high eosinophils, which means they can tell my body's fighting something.
Yeah.
Don't know what.
And this is the oncologist.
Yeah.
You're doing more tests with him.
Yeah. And at this point, I'm like, I'm only seeing this guy.
Yeah.
Nobody else knows what they're doing. He says, I think it's this mast cell thing, goes to his rheumatologist. So I go, this is probably my 34th doctor at this point. Go see this rheumatologist, and he says it's Mast Cell Activation Syndrome. He said normally it takes 7 to 9 years to diagnose. Very hard. He said, I've had a patient like you, similar symptoms. There's no great cure for it. There's no cure, but there's no even great treatment. But you can try this drug called Chromalin, which you drink. It comes in these vials. He said you're going to just pretty much pound this all day, and it should stabilize these cells from releasing. He said the problem is they release at random points, causing these episodic symptoms. Okay, sounds good. Start taking the drugs. A week later, I'm 85% better. So I go back to the oncologist, let him know what happened. He's like, I think this is it. We'll have to monitor you closely. We'll still see you once a week, but we definitely are approaching the end of this.
What was the liquid? What was it called?
Cromolyn, CROMOLYN. That should find
Switch the Y up. Cromolyn.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
it right there.
Okay. Used to prevent treat allergies. So inflammation, the air passages. Okay. All right, so keep going. So 85% better. He's like, I think you're at the end of this.
Yeah, so, and it seemed to everybody, it's like, well, they put me on the drug. They long suspected it was a mast cell disorder. Sure enough, they put me on the drugs for it. I respond to it positively. So everybody's like, okay, watch it, but seems like this is over. And they told me 100% of symptoms being gone isn't realistic. I said, that's fine. 80% is great. I can actually have a life now. So 6 weeks, all of September, it was great. Going out, it's like, oh, this is great. I'm free again.
September of last year.
Yeah, that's 2023.
Yeah.
October, going great. Go out on a Friday night, drink a lot, come back the next day, wake up. I'm like, I feel terrible. I'm like, guess I'm hungover. But I thought, I was like, I don't think I drank enough to be hungover. I'm like, this is strange. I have horrible abdominal pain. I'm like, I don't just have a headache. And I remember I was down in Manhattan Beach and I'm sitting in the Apple store for like 6 hours that day. And the whole time I'm like, I need to go throw up. Something's not right. And it's just like my upper two abs, not lower. It's just the upper. And I'm like, something's weird.
Yeah. What are you doing at the Apple store for 6 hours?
I got sand in my phone and,
Oh, okay.
You gotta, wait for the cleaning person.
Yeah, all right, cool. Cool.
This,
All right, so the abs.
Yeah. And I'm like, this can't be a hangover. At like 4 p.m. that day, I'm like, it's not a hangover. I think I'm sick again. I think the medication stopped working, which they said could happen in a few years, but they said it could happen. So that happens. Don't really sleep that night, wake up the next day, am even worse. Now I have chest pain, just constant. It's like a 4 out of 10 just staying there the whole day. Disoriented, I have brain fog, I have headaches. Still same abdominal pain. Call my doctor first thing Monday morning. He says, get here immediately. I think I was probably at my doctor's for 5 hours. They thought I had a blood clot in my lungs. Couldn't find anything. They did a bunch of imaging. He said, you got to go see the rheumatologist again. Next day, run over there. They're kind of like, something's going wrong again. We don't know what, but this is serious now because it's no longer episodic. You're in chronic pain. And it's like, okay, I could barely get out of bed. I wasn't sleeping. It was horrible.
Because of the stomach pain.
The stomach pain, the chest pain was constant now.
Yeah.
And I said to them, why isn't this episodic anymore? And they said, we don't know, but the abdominal pain fits, the disorientation fits with all this MCAS stuff. And the problem with the syndrome is there's no underlying cause known. It's basically just a collection of symptoms that they say it's related to the mast cells. We don't really know how. We don't know how to treat it. We don't really know even what's wrong, but we label it as this. And so they said there's so much variability with it. We could go anywhere with this. Okay. Start seeing my oncologist again once a week. Feeling terrible. I'm at the point where I'm in so much pain I can't do anything. I'm lucky if I can leave bed that day. He says, we need to see a mast cell specialist. There aren't many of them, but I found one at Stanford. So I have a Zoom with him. And he says, I think it is this MCAS, but the treatment's always tough. We're going to try these Dupixent shots. And he said he thinks that my EOE, the esophagus stuff, is relating because it's causing too many eosinophils in my blood, which we knew I had. And that's really the only positive test for anything I have at that point. They still don't know if it's heart pain, chest wall, just fatty tissue. They had no idea what the pain was. So they're kind of all over the place, but they said, we're going to start these shots. We'll do them for 3 months. See how you're doing. Give me the first shot in December. 4 days after, I wake up at 6 a.m. throwing up. By 11 a.m., every time I have a sip of water, I throw back up. I go to the ER. The line's so long, I'm like, I'm better off laying in my bed at home. And so I'm, for 19 hours, throwing up. Just every time I'd have a sip of water, throwing up. And I call my doctor Monday morning. Hey, what's going on? So that's strange. Maybe it's related to the Dupixent, but nobody really has that. Okay, go in Thursday, take another shot. Sunday, same thing. And they're like, that's a very weird reaction. So they put me on Zofran, which is like a lot of chemo patients are on it. And they said, we think it's just you're having, a horrible response to the drug, but it could still work.
Yeah.
So their thought is, you got to suck it up. We got to do this to see if it works. Stuck on that for 3 months. Never worked. Only made me terrible. Meanwhile, they had me go see a pain doctor. They said, we got to figure out a way to stop this pain. Go there. It's this young guy, which one of my doctors said, never go see a young doctor. He said, you want the guy who's 80 years old, who's seen everything.
Yeah.
So I was a little suspicious when I saw him. And he starts moving around my arms and says, oh, you got a shoulder issue. Like, yeah, I got a torn labrum.
Yeah.
He goes, I think this could be the cause. We're going to order an MRI. And I look at him, I go, you think my torn labrum is causing chest pain? He goes, it could be a nerve or something. I'm not sure, but we should do an MRI. And I go, I've seen 40 doctors. I feel like someone would have picked that one up. I feel like that's, the easy one.
Yeah.
I don't have a long medical history. I think torn labrum is probably the top of the list.
Yeah.
And I said, do you really want me to go do another test when it's not going to be anything? And I said, I'm sure it's still torn.
Yeah.
It hurts.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
And he goes, okay. Then I'm like, what kind of drugs should I take to at least just be able to get out of bed every day? And he says, okay, well, I'm going to give you 2 things. This one is not an opioid. Later looked it up, it was for depression. And he says, then I'm also going to give you this other one, hydromorphone. And he says, now this is the most requested opioid of addicts. He just goes, this is the top of the line. This is this.
I'm getting you the good shit.
I'm like, he goes, this is a
Dilaudid. Yeah, I've had Dilaudid.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one. Yeah, that is the number one. That shit's good.
Yeah, he's like, this is the one everybody tries to steal, the one everyone's addicted to. And I go, why don't we start like a little lower down?
Yeah.
Why don't we start like mid-tier or something? And he's like, don't take it every day. This is a backup for if the other one doesn't work.
Right.
And I'm looking at him, I'm like, my oncologist already prescribed me stuff. It seems to be working okay.
Yeah.
It's less addictive than this stuff. I don't want the addictive thing. And he's kind of like, why aren't you taking this? And then I'm like getting up to leave. And I'm like, I'm not even going to pick up these scripts. And he says, okay, you are going to have to submit to random drug tests. And I'm going to randomly text you. You have to come in with your bottle. And I'm going to count your pills. And I look at him, I go, do you know what I've had happen to me the past year and a half? And he goes, I'm sure it's been a tough time. I go, a tough time? Or do you think it's kind of destroyed my life? He's like, I could see where it's been tough on you. And I go, do you think if I'm faking it to get drugs, I'm going to pick the thing that nobody can even figure out? And I've never asked for any painkiller ever.
Yeah.
I'm asking you to just help me get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
And he says, I don't know what to tell you. I just have to be careful with this stuff. And I'm like, well, my oncologist doesn't think so. He sees how much pain I'm in. And, nobody's really thinking that I'm doing this for drugs. And he sticks with it. He's like, the whole purpose of this is just for you to try and get medication from us. And I'm like, with all I've been through in the past year, that's the worst thing you could have said to me.
Yeah.
Like, you could have told me anything. That's worse than the panic disorder.
Yeah.
And then I get home, I'm like, what was that first drug? Google it. Treats depression. And I'm like, okay, now I got it. I understand exactly where he's coming from. He thinks that, what 20-year-old at the time, thinks, he actually has something like this wrong with him.
Yeah.
Okay. Told my oncologist, I'm like, I didn't even pick up the scripts. I never want to see him again. Wrote a letter to the CEO of the hospital to try and get him fired. Like, I'm not doing that. So from then on, nobody could figure it out, and saw my mast cell specialist again at Stanford. I went up there, and he, this is the first time I've actually seen him in person. Does some blood tests. He says, okay, we'll keep monitoring the Dupixent. I'm driving back to LA. I drove up in the morning. It takes me 8 hours to get back. It's like 10 at night. I'm a block away from my house. I got a phone call, and see, it's his cell calling me. Pick it up, and he goes, hey, got some news for you. I ran a troponin test, which I've had before, and it measures some heart stuff. And they said if high troponin usually indicates a heart attack. And he goes, I think you're about to have a heart attack. I'd pull over. I'm like, how was this missed? I've had this test every time in the ER. And he says, don't know, but you're, over doubled the range. I think you need to pull over immediately, have someone pick you up. You need to go to an ER. So my friend picks me up, go to the ER. They test me. They're like, it's normal now. We don't know what happened. Probably a missed test. They said it's, at this point, they were like, a lot of the things they think I have, there's a better chance a blood test is a false negative or false positive than me actually even having a lot of these diseases. I'm like, okay. Sounds really believable. And the doctor there remembered me from the first time this all happened.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't believe you're back.
Me either.
I'm like, oh, this is where I wanted to be on a Friday night.
Yep.
And he just keeps saying, he's like, I thought this was a panic thing when you first came in. It's obvious to me this isn't now. Like, I can't imagine.
Oh, it's obvious now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like, wow, what a shock. Yeah. And he's like, I can't imagine like how bad this has got to be. I'm like, yeah, it's not fun. It's like, you like are living your life seeing it destroyed slowly, but while at it, you're going to be in pain.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like watching a bad movie, but then just like being forced to keep sitting there and watching it.
Oh yeah.
It's on repeat. And once you think it's as bad as it can get, it just finds a way to get worse. It's great. And so I'm like, go back home that night. And I'm thinking, okay, was supposed to have a heart attack tonight.
Yeah.
Didn't, but I have chest pain. They think this shot's working, but it only makes me throw up.
Yeah.
Things aren't clearly looking up for me right now. So that kind of all of January, everybody was hands in the air. Nobody knew what to do. Mm-hmm. And they kept doing these shots. It's not working. They're like that. So my doctor said, maybe that troponin test was accurate, but all your heart tests seem fine. So this continues. Chest pain's terrible. Barely able to do anything. And
the chest pain is constant now.
Constant at this point. And it gets worse. So it's always a 4 out of 10. But then there'll be days I'm sitting there, it's 10 out of 10 all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. So right now I'm in pain. Mm-hmm. And at this point, to me, it's like everything in my life's just been kind of ruined.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not really a college student at this point.
Right. Not enjoying the college experience right now.
Yeah. I'm like, this is not really what I expected. 21st birthday. It's like drinking's not not even a possibility.
Yeah.
And so it's, again, nobody knows. And so now what they're thinking is they think it's more of a cardiac issue. They think this thing called Kunis syndrome.
How do you spell that?
Kounis. There it is.
An acute coronary syndrome, symptoms such as chest pain relating to reduced blood flow to the heart caused by an allergic reaction or a strong immune reaction to a drug or other substance.
If you want to read the next sentence where it says 130 males.
It is a rare syndrome with authentic cases reported in 130 males and 45 females as reviewed in 2017. However, the disorder is suspected of being commonly overlooked and therefore much more prevalent. Mast cell activation and release of inflammatory cytokines, as well as other inflammatory agents from the reaction, leads to spasm of the arteries leading into the heart muscle or a plaque breaking free and blocking one or more of those arteries.
So it definitely fit the mast cells there. And they said, it's rare, obviously, based on reading that. And I then also said to my doctor, I said, all this stuff started 90 days after the COVID shot.
Hold on. You said what?
That all this stuff started 90 days after the COVID shot. And I saw a new study that said right behind myocarditis, mast cell disorders are the most common side effect. And it a lot of times takes a few months to occur.
Yeah.
So that's my oncologist. And I expected, I brought it up before to other doctors and they always
shot it down.
Yeah, it's always
because I remember always asking you.
Yeah.
And did they mention the shot?
Right.
And you're like, no. And I'm like, okay, all right, another one down.
And so I brought this up to him, and he said, "Oh, I definitely think that's probably the underlying issue." He said, I don't know what's in the shot,
Yeah, no one does.
and he just kind of kept saying, he said, even if it's 100% safe, he said, what happened is you said you got a booster, so you had 3 total. You were stimulating your immune system so much. Mast cells are part of the immune system. Very reasonable to suspect we overstimulated your immune system. Your body didn't know how to respond. You've never been sick like this before.
Yeah.
Your body had no idea what to do.
You've never been sick like this forced sickness. Is that what he's saying from the shot?
No. In terms of my whole life.
Oh, your health prior.
Yeah.
Okay.
My immune system's never been stressed.
Right. Yeah.
I've never had the flu. I had COVID the one time where I was asymptomatic.
Yeah.
So it was always like, he just said, if you had been through a lot and your immune system was ready to handle a big dose of stuff, then it makes sense. But he said, without a doubt, he thinks that might be the underlying cause, which he said the great thing, and I talked to another doctor, more a family friend, who said, I believe that too. He said, the great news is for people with these weird syndromes like Kunis, he said, Kunis syndrome's never going to have a cure. There's never going to be research behind it. Why would there be? Nobody has it. No one's going to put money into it. He said, but the fact that the COVID shot is now being looked at as more of options for this stuff. He said, now there's research behind the cause of what actually happened with you. So he said, that's your best hope. He said, it's all about now just figuring out how do we get through until there's studies done on some people talk about the spike protein of how to get rid of that, different ideas there. So he said, it's kind of the best news scenario is it is the shot. And he said, it's very realistic. And my thing to all doctors is like, I don't know anything about medicine, but like in school, they teach you look at a timeline of things. And I was like, okay, healthy, not healthy. What happened right before? And I always brought that up to doctors and they were like, that's weird.
Don't worry about that. No. It's not like something would have just caused this to abruptly start.
Right. And so they really, when doctors started to admit how rare this was, and then they started admitting, the shot's very likely suspect. And I said, I kind of made a point. I said, I'm not anti-vax.
Yeah.
But I want to get better. And I'm looking at this just from, a dumb person's point of view.
Very intelligent person's point of view.
But in terms of...
If you can just draw a fucking conclusion, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's some common sense shit.
And I just kept saying, it's just the timeline to me. We at least have to look into it or figure out who's the doctor in the country that is looking into this. Because I know there are. Yeah. I have a friend who has myocarditis now. I know there are people that are well aware of it.
Yeah.
So now they're more on that front. The issue is it's a waiting game. I'm now probably going to start new shots as well to see if these help. But it's very much, nobody knows fully what's going on. There's no test for Kunis syndrome.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, you got to just live your life. And every day just keeps getting worse and worse.
Mm-hmm.
And they just so that's kind of where it's at now, where it's like, we think we have an underlying cause, which is great because they said even a lot of diseases, they don't know underlying causes. Yeah. And they said, at least this is a good jumping off point where in the future we have something to do.
Right. Meaning the shot.
Yeah.
Right. It's funny how it took so long for everybody to just kind of accept the fact that might be something.
Right. And I mean, I've been saying it for a while. I just said, it's weird.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know anything about medicine.
Yeah.
But I was like,
and you don't have to.
No, I even said, I was like, I've had internships in like marketing, and like a lot of it's like sales based, and they're like, oh, our sales were doing great, then they fell off, and like, well, you look at what happened when they fell off.
Yeah.
That's a great place to start. It's not always right,
Yeah.
but it's a great jumping off point.
Wonderful place to start.
And so now my doctors are more on that page.
Yeah.
The issue is it's obviously a waiting game. Studies will come out.
Yeah, because there's no study
Right.
on this stuff. It's all been hushed.
Right.
You know, people weren't allowed to even speak about a negative side effect. Right?
Yeah.
It is funny. I was talking to somebody, and this is horrible. What happened?
Oh, thanks. It's so funny.
This is horrible.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that, you know, when the Vietnam War was going on, you couldn't come out and like really protest against it. You were kind of shut down, silenced, ostracized from society in a way. But then decades later, people were like more able to speak up and be like, yeah, that was the wrong war. We shouldn't have done this, blah, blah, blah. So I guess with the shot and, you know, the whole past 4 years, I mean, obviously it's gotten a little bit faster and, you know, from some horrible thing happening and people being able to speak out about it. But still, 4 years. It's taken doctors 4 years to even open their mind enough to be able to even say that this could have caused something.
Mm-hmm.
That's fascinating.
Right.
There's still a huge delay in people being able to speak truths.
Yeah. I mean, what I've said point blank to people, I said, is it going to take this killing me to then make you guys open your mind to the 1 in 10 million possibilities? And I think when I kind of stress it like that, they're a bit more like, oh, this is life threatening.
Yeah.
I'm like, I did have CPR done. We don't know if I lost a pulse or not,
Right.
but it's safe to assume. And I said, I've had hypertensive crises. We know that this could cause cardiac arrest, whatever this is. And I just said, like, what does it take for you to start maybe going against what you believe in? But I think now I found doctors who never fully believed it.
Right. That's the key.
Right. And that's all I've said to doctors. I'm not saying I'm never going to get any shot for the rest of my life.
Yeah. And guess what? You can. If you don't want to, you don't have to.
Right. I'm like, I
know
could.
what I mean?
But I said, again, I know nothing.
Yeah.
But
you are able to accept more truth than they were.
Right. Yeah. So they've kind of now left me in this.
Yeah. But that's good that your oncologist, the one that you found, is like able to admit that this is a possibility. Mm-hmm. It is interesting to see how people were kind of harassed into not being able to accept that there could be negative side effects.
Right. That's what I don't understand. I don't understand why it was a political thing.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody I was training today, and they're like, how did this thing become political? And I was like, well, this is my take. Amongst many things that happened, the media made it seem and lied, right? The head of the CDC lied. Fauci lied, right? And they said that you couldn't get it. If you got the shot, you wouldn't get it, and you couldn't spread it. Mm-hmm. Both were not true, right? And yet, people still think it's true. Even after they've come out and been like, oh yeah, it actually, you can get it and you can spread it. Even after they've said that, people still believe you can't get it and you can't spread it if you get the shot. And it's like, okay, what's going on here? And then you had a lot of media news anchors, correlating a bunch of things, saying, if you don't want to get this shot, then you are an anti-vaxxer. Mm-hmm. So they've conflated this one shot with all the vaccines. Right? And it's like, okay, that's intellectually dishonest. And then also, if you don't want to take a shot, you're an anti-vaxxer, which makes you a far-right conspiracy theorist,
right?
A neo-Nazi, and a racist.
Mm-hmm.
altogether.
Right.
And so when someone hears that, when someone sees that on TV from the party that they support or that the party that they're in, they're like, well, that's not me. I'm not that. So I can't even think that this shot might have negative side effects.
Right.
And it's like, damn. Like, and I get it. People are working their like fucking all day and they don't have that much time to soak in news. Mm-hmm. And so they just go to the biggest source there is. CNN, MSNBC, whatever. And they're like, okay, well, why would they lie to me? You know, it's my group. You know, they're intelligent people. They wouldn't lie to me.
Right. I mean, my thing is, it's also now, I don't really care if you get the shot.
Yeah.
You can, I've never understood. It's like, it doesn't really
do what you want.
Impact me. It's not contagious. It's
right.
like, but for then people to shut me down, and then I'm like, there's a good chance, you know, I've had so many things fit with what's wrong with me that they do, you know, testing and they realize, oh, it's not that. I'm told if they want to test and figure it out and show me why, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the fact that people dismiss it, leave me in excruciating pain.
Right.
And it's like, I don't really care about the politics. I just want to be able to I want to be able to sleep for 4 hours one night. I want to be able to walk out of bed.
Yeah.
You know, without having to have any pain.
Yeah.
You know, I want to go hang out with friends one night.
Yeah.
But it's like, to a lot of people, it's, well, no.
And they just dismiss you and say that it's an anxiety attack.
Right. The anxiety thing, they just keep pushing.
It's like, hold on. That's what you're willing to dismiss me and say that rather than maybe just say that, hey, maybe that one thing when things started going downhill might have caused something to happen. And here's the thing. This is what a lot of people don't understand is people who are complaining about negative side effects from this shot don't want to have these negative side effects from the shot.
Right.
It's not like, yes, and this is, it's not like you're making your whole life about this. It's like, I wish it wasn't this.
Correct.
I would have never taken it. I didn't take it to be like, I hope I get some side effects to complain about.
I mean, I didn't ask for any of this.
Yeah.
I wish I had taken it and it worked great and stopped COVID.
Yeah.
It would have, I was like, that was the goal.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the goal.
At no point did it cross my mind, oh, I'm going to go see 42 doctors in a year. I'm going to have 8 hospital visits. I'm going to go all across the country. That never crossed my mind. And it's like, I was thrown into that position. Nobody was willing to help me for the longest time.
Yeah.
Every doctor is just not my specialty.
Yeah.
It's like, I would have thought, you know, you're a doctor, you'd at least help me. But almost every single one of them just passed me off, called me crazy. And even my oncologist admitted, he said a lot of people with these mast cell disorders are going to doctors for 10 years. Doctors think they're just psychotic. Write it in their notes. No doctor will ever see them again. Because they get the file, they say, I'm going to take this patient. No, every person says they're just making this up. I'm not going to deal with it. Don't even see them. So he said, I've had patients. He said he had one person who was in a mental hospital. They kept saying his panic attacks. Eventually, somehow she got to him or something. And he said, this is not a panic attack. Did more research on it. Said, this is mast cell, you know, one of these mast cell disorders.
Yeah.
Put her on the right medication. Fine. She was put in a mental hospital.
Wow.
It's like, and that's kind of what I think a lot of people just thought they'd do with me.
Yeah.
They're like, let's see if I keep this up for a couple of years. And if I do, we'll just, you know, put them into a rehab thing.
Well, they started you on the SRI or SSRI.
They wanted to. Yeah.
Right.
I said, I'm not taking that.
They're like, well, let's see what happens if he gets on that. If he doesn't stop that, well, then there's something deeper wrong with his mental state.
And what's funny is even now, psychologists, none of my doctors say I have depression or anxiety. And they all say, normally people who have had what you've gone through are so far depressed, just hate life, or have horrible anxiety, or they aren't able to leave their house because they think they're going to pass out. Like, you don't have that. Like, you definitely have depressing days.
Yeah.
But that's not depression.
Kevin's like, you don't understand the gay man that hit on me every day.
Exactly.
Boosts my morale.
Oh, my confidence at the gym is just so high.
I'll never get it.
step out of the shower and just compliments start.
Oh God. That's funny. Yeah, man. I've been there listening to this whole thing, the past 2.5 years, and hoping that, look, when you brought it to my attention, I was like, it's probably the shot.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want it to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think you could notice that. Like, it wasn't like I was like, hoping that it was. It's just like, dude, a lot of people have been complaining about the exact same things that you've been complaining about and have been as healthy as you and as young as you.
Right.
I don't want it to be like this, but your doctors are saying this. This is the one thing they're not looking at.
Right. And that's what I always ask doctors. I said, I'm getting in better shape and my pain's getting worse. It's like, I always was under the impression the better shape you are in, the less other issues you have. And they're always amazed I'm still working out.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I do. And they're like, yeah, it's weird. They said, we think the better shape you're in, the less this should be bothering you. And like, we don't really understand that part of it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's...
Well, you might be able to understand it if you could consider this.
Right. I just said, I was like, nobody knows what any of these things have caused.
Yeah.
And they also are testing for, have I had a tick bite ever?
Right.
All these random things. Say you played a lot of golf, you could have been bitten by something.
Yeah.
Even like tap water. Could you have maybe had some poisoning from that?
Sure.
So it's all these way out there random things, a lot of things you can't even test for.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, let's just add this into the mix as well as a possibility.
Yeah. So when it comes to seeking out any like people who have also experienced this, have you looked into that at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's tough because a lot of people are crazy.
Yeah.
And do want it to be the shot.
Right.
So you got to kind of be careful with that.
Yeah.
But then a lot of doctors are posting stuff now about myocarditis or other heart issues or other just these weird cases like sudden adult death syndrome.
Right.
Is now a big cause of death. It's like my favorite thing about that is the symptom is death.
Nothing else but death.
It's like, oh, that's a
How do you know if you've got this? You die.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a tough diagnosis to have.
Yeah. And you never get it until it's too late.
Yeah, exactly. It's a tough doctor's appointment.
Yeah. That's almost like the easiest job as a doctor.
Oh.
He just randomly died. Yeah, he's got sudden death, adult death syndrome.
Yeah, and I'm just like
found out just now.
Yeah, and I'm like, that kind of sounds actually a little bit like what's happening to me. I haven't quite died yet, but it does sound like I just go out.
Right.
And so it's tough to find people, but I've found there's so many studies, even Johns Hopkins is doing studies on the COVID shot. And a big thing is what I bet really happened is one big thing they're concerned about is every test, they want to do a cardiac catheterization with me where they put a camera in my artery, push it into my heart.
Yeah.
And they said, we think if this is truly a mast cell issue, you could have an allergic reaction to the dye we use or the camera, anything we put into you. And they said it's common for people with these weird mast cell disorders to have reactions to things they don't actually test allergic to. And that's a big concern. And every doctor's afraid to give me any medication as a result.
Yeah.
And I said to them, I said, oh, well, could the shot have maybe been like because that's the first medication I've had that was my body's never had. Mm-hmm. Could that have maybe been the start of it, activated this stuff? And they said, that could be it. Your body never had it. And I mean, online, even on the, it's like a Mast Cell Society kind of thing, find a bunch of people who have said, always had a mast cell issue. Wasn't that impactful though. And for 99% of people, it's not that impactful.
Yeah. Got
the shot. I had a reaction immediately. And these are the people that, went to the anaphylaxis in the pharmacy when they got it. And this, nobody knew at the time, this is the underlying issue these people already have. Mm-hmm. Everybody just thought they're truly allergic. Turns out they aren't on paper, when they do the skin prick test.
Yeah.
they're not actually allergic there. But then a lot of people also said, it seemed like after that, my symptoms just started to get worse. I saw my doctor. They realized, a lot of people have triggers for this stuff. It's weird. I don't. But a lot of people, it's like a food that they eat. And they said, it's very likely this was the trigger that just made something worse. So some of my doctors said I could have had a mast cell issue for my whole life, potentially. Right. Totally fine, though. And I said, every once in a while I get heartburn growing up. I said, okay, it could have been it. But then they give me the shot. Turns out I have a bigger reaction than I think.
Yeah.
Nobody knew. Never was tested for any of this stuff. And then sure enough, things start to keep progressing and get worse. And they said that's also a good possibility.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, I've just seen so many stories of cancer and other things that were just all of a sudden exacerbated the moment they got a shot. Now, am I saying it's because of the shot? Maybe. I don't know for sure. But I know 4 people who have had issues because of it. My buddy who just died from cancer was holding out on the shot until he went on, I think he went to Hawaii while he was, he was battling cancer. And his doctor suggested that he was forcing, it was really like kind of like forcing him to take this shot. And he's like, I don't know. It's like, I just don't know about that. And he's like, well, you're traveling and your immune system is compromised. So you should get this to help prevent you from getting COVID. He immediately got COVID. Right. His symptoms and the tumors immediately started growing more. And it got worse.
Right.
I've had 3 female clients in their 40s have complications from it. One, lawyer, her menstrual cycle changed drastically. For the first time in her life, she was like emotional on a level she'd never been with her menstrual cycle ever. The second one had tumors start to aggravate. I don't know how long she had them. Mm-hmm. She ended up, or cysts or something like that, ended up getting her what is it when you have your sexual reproduction taken out? What's that surgery? Not a vasectomy, but a hysterectomy.
Okay.
A hysterectomy. That was just taken. And she can't have kids. Mm-hmm. And then another one was having menstrual cycle issues. I mean, immediately after she got the shot. Come to find out, a couple weeks ago, she had cancer.
Wow.
She got it removed, and that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It was down there.
It seems like it makes things worse.
Exactly.
Which else is it kind of goes with the idea of, well, if your immune system's already stressed, and then we stress it even more.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what that does.
Right.
Because it was never really done.
Yeah, it's never been done in the history of man this way.
Yeah. It's a little weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's sad. And just talking about this, people think that you want it to be this way.
Right.
And it's like, no, why would I want any of that to happen to anybody?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't, and maybe somebody could say, well, you just want this to be a bad thing because you don't want Democrats in office. Or so, I mean, I'm just trying to come up with something, but that doesn't even make sense.
I mean, I will ask people, give me a day in the past year and a half that I've enjoyed.
Yeah.
Not many people would, I don't go out there being like, I want to prove a point.
Right.
I'm going to ruin my life for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Almost kill me.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be right.
Stay on the edge.
Yeah. I'm like, that's not exactly my thought. I'm not that, smart.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
I don't play that kind of long game.
Right. And to even consider like this is like a political thing.
I just don't understand it.
There's a little bit of delusion there.
I do not understand why it was politicized.
Yeah. Well, I think because one group wasn't allowed to consider another the negative side effects.
Right.
Simply as that. It's simple as that.
Right. And then it's just, I always ask, like those people who will get on me about the idea of it being the shot. I say, okay, well then what do you want to have happen to me?
Yeah.
And, they always say, oh, it's, this rare syndrome. And the things they're looking at for me are so out there rare. It's way more common the fact that I had an adverse reaction to a vaccine. I had an adverse reaction to the Dupixent they gave me.
Yeah.
So I know I've had that.
Exactly. Yeah. I had an adverse reaction to a vaccine that was rushed. Mm-hmm. That every Democratic politician, while Trump was in office, while he was saying, I want to, Operation Warp Speed, I'm going to speed this vaccine up, they're like, I'll never take this shot.
Right.
From this guy, he's rushing it.
Out
There's no way. Moment he gets out, moment Biden goes in, this is the greatest scientific discovery of our generation. We have to take it. It's blah, blah, blah. And you're like, dude, like, why would I? It is a fascinating thing to witness how people kind of like fucking bounce it around in their head. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, why, like, yeah, if you want to find the solution, right? If you're talking to somebody and they're like, yeah, I can't, don't say that. Do you really want me to find the solution? Are you okay with whatever that is? Is your desire to find the solution more important than the answer?
Right.
Obviously not. Mm-hmm. Obviously not. And that's a problem.
Right.
That's
why I ask people. Nobody wants to answer the question.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man. I think I was just I was really unaware, like when the shutdown happened, at how sheepish a lot of people are mentally. Like whatever is safe to think, they're gonna think. Anything that takes a little bit of courage to consider, they can't do it. Because then people won't like them anymore.
Right.
And you're like, hold on, you're 50. I thought you age out of that high school mentality. Mm-hmm. No.
Well, that's my thing. So right now I'm in a position, I don't really care if people like me.
Yeah.
It's like, I kind of want to live. I'm going to do whatever is necessary for that.
Yeah.
Now it's like, well, that's where I'm at.
Right.
So it doesn't make sense to me when people judge me or something. It's like, I'm just trying to do what's going to let me live and take away my pain.
Yeah.
It's like, if this really were a panic attack and they could prove it, I'd be okay with that.
Exactly.
But clearly they can't.
Yeah.
That's my thing. I don't really care what this is. It's like, I just kind of want to be done with it eventually.
Yeah. Eventually.
Yeah. Keep it around for a few more years at least.
Yeah. Tell some girls about it, get some sympathy.
Once the book comes out, then I'm good.
How is the book coming?
I have 2 going.
Oh, you got 2 books? All right.
One's just on the health.
Yeah.
The one's just about my life.
Right.
So there's a little crossover. I feel like we got to have the life one come out first.
Yeah.
And then we'll have the health one maybe 2 years later.
Right.
The first one's so long, it's going to take like 2 years to read it.
Yeah. How, what are you writing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I can't write well, so I'm going to have to get a ghostwriter. Yeah. But I write down my ideas.
Yeah, of course.
And then they are put into that.
Yeah. It's just escapades and thoughts.
Yeah, it's pretty much that.
Nice.
After that, I'm working on a new stand-up routine as well. I think that's the next venture for me.
All right. Give me an idea that you're kind of mulling around.
Well, definitely the health stuff. I think I've had good ones. Good things happen to me that are entertaining.
Yeah.
Killed a nurse one night.
Almost?
Yeah.
Okay.
She walked into my room when I was in the hospital overnight.
Yeah.
I was in the COVID wing. Walked in my room with the face mask, with the huge needle, because she has to clean out my IV.
Yeah.
I'm dead asleep, so I wake up. There's a person over me with a mask, a huge needle, what would I think?
Yeah.
I'm like, this is it. I put my fist back. I'm like, this is it. Like, I got one chance right here. Yeah. There's another one standing behind.
Yeah.
And I start to go, and immediately she like falls on me, and they start saying, Kevin, no, it's fine. It's fine. We're nurses. We're here to just, clean out the IV line. And I'm like, okay, I understand now. They're like, okay, we'll be back in 2 hours. We're going to make sure to warn you. 2 hours later, the person's standing at the door yelling at me, Kevin, are you awake? Do you see who it is? I'm like, okay, you're good this time.
Yeah. Dang, dude.
So I've had a lot of kind of weird events like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's some good stories.
Yeah. And then obviously my nights out.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's
but do you remember any of them?
I don't drink that much to not remember. I always remember what happens.
Okay.
Always do.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, dude, so, I mean, you're thinking about starting, a little bit of social media to kind of like get this story out. So that's why we kind of did this podcast, so you can kind of like just get the full story out, talk it out, and see if other people,
Right.
connect with it, right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's kind of two parts to the whole thing. It's like there's one, obviously, going to the doctors, that whole thing, figuring out what's actually wrong with me. And then the other one is you can't live in a doctor's office. So I still have to have kind of a life. I still have obligations. I still work, still go to school, still am doing these things, but it looks a lot different than it did 2 years ago. It's not fun.
Yeah.
It's never fun. What is fun to me now would have been dreadful 2 years ago. Sitting in bed on a Friday night is not exactly what my lifestyle was.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something I think more people have these issues. And I found online a lot of people have issues like this.
Yeah.
And it's tough because everybody's put in a position of, I got to act normal, got to do these things. I did the whole act normal thing. And then a couple of my friends knew for a little bit, like something's going on. We don't really know what. And then slowly people start to find out. A couple of people figured out the whole story and kind of like, we're like, oh my God. Like, I've had people now say like, I can't believe everything you're doing. And you're still, going to class, doing all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a big adjustment.
Yeah.
And a lot of doctors have told me a lot of people can't handle that. A lot of people are stuck in these positions. I didn't even know what a rare disease was. I always thought every disease is rare, but they just do a little, blood, test it. Oh, you got this, take this medication. I didn't.
Yeah.
There were not things like 3 years ago. I was thinking about it. Oh yeah. Some people go years, in pain.
Yeah.
Having to figure out how to live a life.
Yeah.
But that's exactly kind of where I was thrown into.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, I think it's definitely relevant. I have plenty of friends who have weird syndromes, myocarditis, these weird things. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody's afraid to talk about them. Also, nobody even knows how to talk about them. I tell some people this stuff and they panic and they don't know what to say.
They shut down.
Yeah. And it's weird. It's like, and I'm always, my theory is either laugh or you cry.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not fun to keep crying about this.
Right. So you eventually just got to laugh it off.
I'm going to make fun of myself.
Yeah.
I always tell my friends, I'm like, I took a 7.5 minute break, Yeah. And so in some people, you say stuff like that, silence.
Yeah.
They don't know how to act. They don't know.
They can't let their brain go down that train of thought.
And then they do a lot of times, they might mean well, but then they do the worst things possible. The worst thing I can do is have a text from you every day. How are you feeling today? It's like, I'm not going to feel good overnight. Mm-hmm. Most likely I didn't sleep that night. At this point I'm usually on the floor,
right?
Because I'm in so much pain. I don't want to be in the bed anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody knows how to interact with that. And it's just, so it kind of isolates people even more. And it's like, well, I'm not going to really tell people. I don't know that well, because then they get scared.
Yeah.
Or like, oh my God, I need to know how to do CPR. Like, why are you even out of the house?
Yeah.
It's like, well, staying in the house is not an option. It's an option for some people, but
yeah,
I don't really want to have that life.
Yeah. I mean, there's something that chronic pain really does to you, as far as like bringing you more creating a deeper awareness of like, you know, your mortality, you know, and until you experience something like that, where there's something about physical pain that is so sobering,
Right.
in many ways, right?
Yeah, if you haven't been, I mean, obviously I've had tons of injuries. That to me was like, torn labrum, that hurts. But it's like, okay, you know what that is. You know what you can do. When it's pain that's there that you don't even know what it is, you can't help it. And you're just like, I have to deal with this. It's a whole new world.
Yeah.
And almost nobody has to experience that.
Yes. Yeah. Chronic pain sufferers are in a class of their own.
Yeah.
And whatever it is, you know, I've had chronic pain with my back, my bulging discs, my issues there. My sister had chronic pain in her 20s from endometriosis and cysts and stuff like that will erupt and, you know, just have her bedridden for most of the day.
Right.
You know, for about a good 8 years.
Yeah.
And it's like your personality changes. That's what pain does.
Yeah. And that's why people will ask me, they're like, oh, like you had to stay in bed today. Like, oh, does that make you feel better? And it's like, no, laying in bed doesn't make you feel better.
No.
It's you physically can't get up.
Yeah.
And, you know, people do not understand what that's like. When you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I can't move today. Like that's just the thought of sitting upright. There's too much for me to do.
Yeah.
Like that's, you know, people don't know what that's like.
No.
And they shouldn't. I mean,
Yeah, right. Exactly.
right.
And that, you know, a lot of people can become bitter with their chronic pain, you know.
Right.
And it's a hard thing to tell someone, well, don't get bitter. And you're like, all right, dude, but if you felt this way, like
Right.
you wouldn't say that because it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, what I always tell people is like, don't push me.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know if I'm sitting next to you and I feel like I'm about to go into cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
You have no idea. So maybe if you say something to me once and if I don't do it or if I don't seem excited, don't keep pushing me because it's probably not, there's probably a reason for that.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, the amount of days it's like I wake up and I'm like, this is horrible. I hate everything.
Yeah.
Like that's just part of it. And you just kind of have to deal with that.
Yeah.
But other people don't understand that. Like, oh, well, you seem off today.
Right.
It's like, well, yeah, I am off, you know?
I wish I could have understood that a little bit more when my sister was going through what she was going through in her 20s, because I'm such a, you know, problem solver. I'm just like, all right, well, let's do this. Let's try to help you here. And it's just like, hey, I'm dealing with this on my own here. Like, give me some space. That was a hard relationship to kind of rebuild and figure out how to navigate. But you're a very resilient person, you know? So even in these 2.5 years of chronic pain, it seems as if now and along the way, you've kept fitness as like a fundamental activity in your life.
Right.
You know, how important has that been?
I mean, to me, that's the only thing I make myself do every day.
Yeah.
And half the days, it's torturous, don't want to do it. And obviously, I never sleep.
Yeah.
I don't think I've slept past 2:45 this week. And so it's like when you're going to the gym on an hour sleep, you're already in pain. Without that, the amount of issues for being sleep deprived causes absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, that can cause you insane. It just go crazy.
Yeah.
But when you're doing all that and then you're like, and I'm now going to go work out, it's miserable. It's not enjoyable in the moment. But to me, if I didn't have that, well, then there's no point to me doing any of this. It's like, then I would just let this kill me. Because I think that's the only way I can kind of progress my life right now. Of at least if I can get in better shape when this hopefully ends one day, I'm going to be in a better spot than I was. And it's also the only time I can actually move around, kind of be a little bit more free, not confined to like, you know, in my bed or something.
Yeah.
So it's just great for that. Plus, you know, kind of like I said earlier, when you have a weight over your head, you're not thinking about your issues.
Yeah.
Thinking about, let's keep that weight off of my face.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a good thing just for that of, how can I go about this and forget about things? And I also remember when the skin pain was really bad, I was down to 45 seconds walking on a treadmill I could do, for the pain was too bad. And so I decided, this was probably like March or May of last year. It's like, okay, I'm going to every day go on the treadmill. I'm going to suck it up for as long as I can. I don't care how much it hurts, till the point of I'm bleeding, I don't stop. First week, I maybe broke a minute once. End of the month, I could do 27 minutes. And it's like, that's a huge improvement to me.
Oh, yeah.
And that I'm looking at, I'm like, okay, this is manageable. I can do this. It sucks. It's never fun. But at least I know if I keep doing this, I can eventually get used to it and get out the other end.
Yeah.
Now I can walk on the treadmill again. Right now I'm like 45 minutes, an hour.
Yeah.
But it's, I know I can now do it. Whereas before, it's like I was looking at that. I was like, that's just looks like hell. I want to kill myself if I'm on that thing for more than a minute.
Yeah.
Not anymore. And so seeing that progress kind of shows, okay, this is doable. It is livable.
Yeah.
It's just, it takes adjusting.
Yeah. What got you to keep going to the gym?
That was the only place I knew to go.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is it's like in college, you go out Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, which means you sleep in Friday, Saturday, Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
So your day starts at 1 p.m. So it's like, for me, it's, okay, I'm now up 21 hours a day. I don't go out. I don't drink. I can barely eat half these days. So it's, I don't know what to do to even fill my time.
Yeah.
So like, it was like, okay, I'll go sit at the gym on a foam roller for 2 hours. Got nothing else to do. Everybody else is gone. All my friends are doing stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is, that was my Friday night. Still I now choose to work out at 7 p.m. on Friday nights.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I don't really feel like I'm missing. Before I thought I was missing stuff, but now it's like, this is, this is what I can do. So this is what I'm going to suck it up and I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And I think you have to kind of figure out your limitations of, I've gone out once since October. It wasn't really fun for me. It's not fun being the sober ones while everyone else is drinking and you're just kind of standing there awkwardly. But I was like, okay, it's kind of forced out for a birthday. And I was like, okay, I can do it.
Yeah.
But it's just not even enjoyable. So why should I put myself to that? And your priorities just completely shift. And it's like, the reality is the only thing productive I can do right now in my free time is work out. Everything else is just sitting there, in agony, wishing that this could go away when it's not going to go away. There's, that the whole thought, everybody keeps, so many people ask me like, oh, like you're just ready for this to be cured. I'm like, that's not how these things work. It's not, I'm not going to wake up one day. My doctor goes, you're cured, gone, done forever. That's not possible.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I want the tumor.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
They had to do a heart test the other day. I was like, I hope I got heart disease.
Yeah. God, this could be great.
When my doctor told me, and he was like, oh, shoot. And he goes, it's good. I'm like, no, it isn't. I wanted the disease.
Yeah. Give me the thing that you can cut out.
Yeah. My psychologist started laughing. He goes, you're the first person who's rooting for cancer.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm like, this sounds great.
Right.
Diagnosis.
Yeah.
But you got to just kind of figure out how to, go about with what you can do. I think working out also mentally is great for you.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason why I don't have, real depression. I think there's depressing days or weeks.
Right.
But it's not like a constant thing. I don't really ever have anxiety.
Yeah.
But I think if I stopped working out, then I would.
Yeah.
I mean, even I know like Australia, they're now number one thing they prescribe to people when you go to a psychologist is a workout plan.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's like,
I wish that was universal.
right. That's what every doctor says to me. They always say, keep working out. And a lot of them say, we think it's cardiac. We'd normally tell you, don't do anything to stress your heart. But they said, since you tested positive, you're okay on the treadmill test. We aren't worried about your heart blowing up while you're working out.
Yeah.
You have to go every day. And I've had doctors say, I don't care how much pain you're in, go to the gym, do something.
Yeah.
And that's the reason. It's the only chance you have of staying sane.
Yeah. It really is.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing. It's not a good thing that you're being forced to realize this But it's a good thing that you're realizing at this age, because when you get to your 30s, the amount of friends of yours that consistently work out or have physical activity as a scheduled thing in their life goes down, dude. Because you're working more, you've got a family possibly, or you've got kids, and you didn't prioritize it before that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then have a partner that's going to hold you accountable and like, hey, did you work out today? All right, well, you want to go get a 20-minute walk in. You want to get a 20-minute circuit in of jump squats and push-ups. You know, like that shit is important.
Yeah.
And you're developing it now.
Right.
You know, and like for you, like a lot of people don't know you, obviously, but I trained you. And you were the type of client that I mean, you know, you were going to push yourself more than I was going to push you.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure you didn't get injured, which you enjoyed doing for some reason.
Loved it.
Yeah. So I still get upset about when I think about it. Fucking on the couch doing military press. Oh,
what a shock.
Tear your labrum. But anyways, I would tell you, hey, yeah, I did the Santa Monica stairs. You should do it. And then you do it. And I'm like, yeah, I did it this time. And it was easy. And I'm like, dang, like this kid is like a go-getter. He's pushing himself. Like he just needs a little bit of guidance. And I've already done all the crazy shit that he's going to eventually do and maybe get injured doing. So I'm just going to guide him away from that, even though that didn't help. But for you to just barely be able to do 40 seconds on a treadmill.
Right.
That's crazy.
Right. That to me, it was like
captain of your golf team.
Yeah. I mean, it's everything about like whole childhood was sports, all these things.
Yeah.
Then when I probably turned 18, I really started to get into working out.
Yeah.
And it's like my thing was I always could run.
Yeah.
I could go, no training, go run 8 miles.
Yeah.
Be like an 8-minute pace, but it would be like, it's not too hard for me.
Yeah.
And so the fact that now I can't even walk on it, so put it on 2 speed, I can't walk. It's like I used to do an hour walking uphill, go work out, stretch for 30 minutes, go back 1 more hour. My workout would be 4 hours. Do that every day for a summer.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the fact you're telling me I can't do a minute of this is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, even like you're saying, it's like my friend in July who I've been working out with said, I hit 315 on deadlift for the first time.
Nice.
And he said, goal is 405. I said, no chance, not going to happen. I did 425 last week for reps.
Wow.
And it's in like everybody sees, and they're like, you don't, like, I remember one day there was 315 on the bar, and one of the trainers comes up to me and he goes, oh, like, you doing like 1 rep maxes? And I go, no, I'm doing 5 sets of 10. He said to me, he goes, really? I was like, yeah. And he goes, oh, but like sumo deadlift, right? I was like, no, like traditional.
Yeah, yeah.
And he goes, I need to watch this.
Yeah.
Okay. Did like 12 reps. He goes, wow, that was shocking. You don't look like you could do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, but I kind of like that David Goggins mentality.
Yeah.
That's my thing for everything.
Yeah.
Like you just kind of keep going. It's going to suck.
Yeah.
You either get hurt or you do it.
Yeah. I mean, it is very true. Mm-hmm. It's a hard place to get to mentally.
Yeah.
And when you are there, it's hard to understand people who aren't. Yeah. But
this morning I woke up, it was like 2:45. It's like the only time I had to work out today was in the morning.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to go. I opened my phone to TikTok. Third video is Goggins. And it's like, one of the running ones where the guy's following him. 5 seconds of that, I'm like, I'm up out of bed, have to drive my friend to school at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
And he told me he could only work out if it was in the morning. He didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, did you work out today? He goes, no. I'm like, how come? He's like, I woke up so tired. Like I just laid in bed.
Just send him that TikTok.
Hours. I'm like, oh, I heard Goggins saying, get up.
Yeah.
I already worked out. I did a 2-hour workout this morning. He goes, oh, you're one of those. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, you got to have that thing, man.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in my 20s, it was always like, when a new like UFC countdown would come out, like back when that was like a big thing, and they'd like document the fighters training. Like, dude, when that would come out, I'd be like, oh man, I got to go train. Mm-hmm. I got to go work out. or like, or if I would just get on YouTube and watch Fedor fights.
Okay.
You ever heard of him?
Yeah.
And I would just be, I have to go work out now.
Yeah.
I just go run that hill. That's all I got to do. I just run that hill.
Yeah. And like I love now, I talk to people and they're like, oh, my off day today. And I'm like, oh, you have an off day? I go 7 days a week and I'm dying. And people look at me and go, oh.
Yeah.
Okay, people don't like me for that.
Well, yeah, of course.
When I pull the dying card out on them.
Yeah.
You don't make friends.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Yeah. But I mean, I get it, man. You know, like that's one of the things. Like Courtney is, Division I athlete, very disciplined, very go-getter type mindset. And it's sometimes hard for her to relate with people that don't have that.
Yeah.
And I get it. But everybody's on their own path when it comes to like personal responsibility and discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be very abrasive to people.
Right. It's definitely tough. I mean, especially now. I'll have a friend who texts me, I'm not going to class. I have a cold. Meanwhile, I'm in the bathroom taking nitroglycerin because my heart hurts so much.
Yeah.
And I'm like walking in there. I'm like, okay, I have to leave in 5 minutes to go take another one of those. I'm just going to do that for the first 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And get through it. And they're like, yeah, I have a bunch of NyQuil in me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have all this going on and you're just going to sit there, do nothing. It's like, I don't really understand that.
Yeah.
Especially then when people want them to, someone to feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't really care.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got a lot of resilience, man. And I don't know if that's like you've always been that way or you developed it during sports or your parents kind of made you that way. I mean, what do you think?
I think it was a lot of golf.
Yeah.
Did it. I mean, it was because high school, I would hit 1,000 balls a day was my thing.
Okay.
Summers, get to the course, range open at 6:30. I get there at 6:30, hit balls for 5 hours, go play 18, hit balls for another 5 hours, putt for 2 hours, dark now, go home, wake back up, 6 a.m., do it again. It was just on repeat.
In the summers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what you realize is if you do the hard work, things work out for you.
Yeah.
Became really good pretty quickly as a result. I went from a 26 handicap to a scratch golfer in 2 years, which for most people, that's not possible.
Yeah.
Basically, I dropped 30 shots off my score.
Dang.
In 2 years. But it's like I put in the work. Wasn't like I grew, was not one of those like naturally gifted athletes. I was also out of shape, all these things. My back was destroyed as a result of it, but I still kept playing. Mm-hmm. I'd get home, I couldn't move my back. Every time I hit a shot, get the nerve pain going down my right leg. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
When I was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing now. I mean, it's like working out. It's just if you do the hard work, it's gonna pay off. It has to.
Yeah.
It's no solution. It's not possible for it not to. And so it's the same thing with the health stuff. It's like as much as it sucks, you just have to suck it up. And just it's like my thing is like I don't care if anybody cares. I don't need someone feeling sorry for me. That does nothing. I've had friends almost in tears when I'm talking to them and they're like, I just can't believe you have all this. It's like, I appreciate your concern, but how does that make me feel any better about my situation? Just makes me feel worse, if anything. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I can't change anything with my health.
Yeah.
It's up to doctors. And even that, it's a bit of luck to see if it ever actually if this goes away or not. It's going to be a lot of luck.
Yeah.
But the only option I have is I could either, lay in bed all day, depressed, not want to do anything. You're not going to want to live your full life if that's the case.
Right.
Very least, it's I'd like to give myself that opportunity, and you just got to suck it up and do it.
Yeah.
There's no option.
Yeah.
It's like tomorrow I'm going to be in my doctor's office for 5 hours. It's going to be for this one shot. 2 hours of observation afterwards. It's going to be an hour of waiting for a blood test. It's going to be all this waiting. Not really my ideal Friday.
Right.
But it's okay, whatever. I can do it. You just got to suck it up. It's okay, this isn't going to be fun.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's supposed to have fun. That's why I don't understand why anybody's like, oh, go through life like you'll have fun. It's like, that's not like written in the rules.
Yeah.
It's like things just happen to you and you have to just figure out your way out of them. And I think if you figure out your way out of them, then you are having fun. It's like, oh, look at what I just did. It's like the deadlift thing. It's like, oh, that's fun when you realize it. It sucks in the moment.
Yeah.
But after I'm like, oh, now I feel great.
Yeah. I figured this out, kind of problem solved this.
Yeah, exactly.
Made a little progression here.
Yeah. And I also kind of stuck with it through tough times when, when you plateau.
Yeah.
Health. Right now, when I keep seeing more doctors and I just keep getting worse faster. It's like I consider this round 2 that I'm in right now. The difference is it's like in a fight, how many rounds you have. You just got to last.
Yeah.
And it's like,
it's 12 rounds. We're on 9.
Exactly. You're like, you can see the boxers. You just kind of, hide and, cover up.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just get through to the finish.
Yeah.
Hope the judges rule in my favor. That's not an option.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if this is 2 rounds or 20 rounds.
Yeah.
I don't know how this ends. I don't know if it ever ends.
Yeah. You don't know the time frame.
So it's like, I've had some people tell me it'll be forever. You just have this issue. Other people tell me, oh, I think we're getting close. It's a couple months.
Right.
But at the end of the day, there's no real way of telling that.
Well, you're learning a lot of life lessons from this illness, this complication, social, psychological, and even spiritual.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I've been really thinking about recently is, I was thinking to myself, I was like, what is growing old? Because like when I was 21, I didn't know what 36 was.
Right.
So it's a lot of mystery to aging, and existing. And a lot of it comes down to a commitment to certain virtues and values. And I mean, you're a prime example. Like, you've got a commitment to a certain type of discipline.
Right.
And a certain type of, I wouldn't say positive thinking, but like continual forward motion.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how small that is for you on a daily basis, you're going to try your best to stay committed to doing something that you can move forward or make you feel like you're moving forward in.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is like, I always tell people the best thing about this health stuff is you figure out who your friends are real fast.
Mm-hmm.
You also figure out what's important. It's like the drinking on a Friday night, or hooking up with the random girl you meet at the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's not exactly the top of my list of priorities.
Yeah.
So kind of like you said, was sticking with kind of your values. It is that. It's just you pick what you can have. You can't have everything. And you just kind of keep going with it. See what sticks, what doesn't. But the gym for me, that's the one thing I know. I don't care what's happening. I'm doing, that's going to stick with me. Mm-hmm. I got in trouble in the hospital because I kept doing push-ups, and they were like, because they monitor my heart from the computer in the hallway, and they run in. They go, something's happening. You think you're about to go into cardiac arrest. Your heart rate's 180. I'm like, oh, my bad. No one told me I can't leave the bed.
Right.
What were you doing? I was like, I had to do push-ups.
Yeah.
And that's just for me. It's like, that's my biggest thing is trying to stay active.
Yeah.
That's kind of the biggest value I have right now. I don't really, the friends stuff, it's nice, but it's not needed.
No. They come and go.
Yeah. It's like, I think there will be a few that have, stuck around this whole time. Or I also think I've become much closer with some people as a result of all of this.
Yeah.
But I could count on one hand the amount of people that is. It's not like,
Yeah.
You don't need 40 people.
No.
You ain't got like, I've told people, like, as long as I have like one person, I could go to war and know they aren't going to shoot me. Good.
Dude, that's huge.
Yeah.
A lot of people have 100 friends and none of them would go to war with them.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Like, that's scary to me.
Yeah.
Like, I've never wanted that.
Right. I mean, my thing is the people, I have to censor how much information I tell you about my health. If I can't tell you everything,
Yeah.
says something about what I think of you.
Yeah. and what you're giving me.
Right. It's like I should be able, if you really are that in tune with me, be able to just, you go to the appointment with me, listen to everything that's said, and me trust that you're going to now do the right thing. And you're not going to, the amount of times I have cancer week. Apparently this is a big thing. Undiagnosed patients I've seen on TikTok where everybody says it was cancer week for me. It was the week the doctor told me they thought I had cancer, but didn't have any test results. So I had that week where I'm just sitting there thinking, oh, they think I have cancer now. I've had that like 6 times now. It's always awful.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Oh, it's just terrible. But the idea, and I never tell anybody because I don't want somebody to panic about it.
Right.
But like, I should have people who can just hear that, be like, okay, and just have my mentality with it, not, oh my God, and start panicking. And that's all I have some friends that panic so fast about it. Others that don't care much, which I'm kind of okay with.
Yeah.
But as long as you have like those 1 or 2 people that fully understand, can kind of read you and you can trust them and I can tell them everything I'm on.
Yeah.
And, if I have a really bad day, tell them like, oh, this is a rough day for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't need many of those.
Yeah. No, I get it, man. Yeah, my friends in my 20s had good friends in college. Some dudes that would go to war with me for sure. We were in the gym all the time, pushing ourselves. I was teaching them how to wrestle. We were doing jiu-jitsu, mixed martial arts. But I don't talk to any of them anymore. And I have friends that are in my 30s. We're on different paths.
Right.
And that's natural. Your friends group changes with like what your trajectory is, where you're going, and a lot of it, which is, it's interesting, but I know you can kind of start getting this now. It's a lot of people are chronic complainers, and I totally understand why. Like I get it, and I've never heard someone complain and it not be a justified complaint. But what are you going to do? Complain more, or make something change? You know what I mean? And I've got a ton of shit I can complain about, but that doesn't work for me. Like that doesn't help me move forward. That doesn't help me think about growth. And some people struggle with that.
Right.
And everybody's got their I think sensibilities to that. And you can't change that with people.
Right. I think a lot of people just want to blame stuff.
Yeah.
They don't want to take responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I mean, that you find this in the psychedelic therapy world as well. It's like, a lot of people will have realizations of like, oh, this happened to me and I reacted this way, but I didn't have to, and I can start actually embracing life and move past this trauma. But that moving past something that happened to you is a lot of responsibility. And people don't always take all of that responsibility.
Right.
And the growth after that is all responsibility taking. It's all ownership. And I was talking to my therapist when I did my session, and I was like, why are people having these amazing experiences, realizing things that they need to work on, and then not being able to work on them afterwards? And she's like, a lot of people just don't have the resiliency. That some people do, like from their childhood and how they were raised and stuff like that. They just don't have that. So there's no resiliency there to help push them towards more ownership and stuff.
Right.
And it's tough to watch because that becomes your family members. That becomes your friends. And you're like, damn, like the only thing that can help you here is if you started taking ownership of everything and stopped blaming everybody and everything and just been like, you know what? This is my life. I got some shit going on over here that I can't control, but I can control this. And I'm going to focus on this as much as I can. But you telling somebody that, it's not going to make them realize it.
No, and I mean, I've had people say to me that them watching everything I'm going through has made them stop complaining about stuff, suck it up more, and just been like, okay, you can't say, it doesn't matter how much I hate being in my position.
Yeah.
I can't go to my doctor and be like, oh, I don't like this position. I'm going to just, get out of this. That's not an option.
Yeah.
So there's no point in me complaining about it. And I've had people say, they're like, after seeing that, like, I don't get why I complain about, very minor things compared to mine's quite literally life or death.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's very good, man. My buddy who passed away from cancer, that's what he gave me. As I watched him take his last breath, he never stopped fighting. He was down to probably 100 pounds. Yep. He looked like Matthew McConaughey in the Dallas Buyers Club.
Yep.
Just the cancer the tumors were all in his brain. And, he was in so much pain that people close to him were saying, hey, man, there's options here. Like we can medically assisted death here, suicide. He didn't take that. Right. And I got to see him fight to his last breath, to where it wasn't up to him anymore. His autonomic nervous system, his lungs gave up.
Right.
Right. We go to sleep every night and we take for granted that our lungs just keep working. Mm-hmm. But he got to the point where that autonomic nervous system stopped.
Right.
And I saw him take that last breath and I saw his eyes glaze over and I'm like, he fought to the end. Mm-hmm. That's admirable and inspiring.
Right.
When he didn't have to. Mm-hmm. Nowadays you can take other routes out.
Right. I've had people say to me that like people in my position are the most likely of any person to turn to substances.
Yeah.
To become alcoholics or start doing drugs. And it's like, that is a very valid option. Yeah. And I also kind of I'm like, it would make things way easier.
Yeah.
If I walked around high all the time, I'm like, oh, this isn't that bad.
Right.
And I could be like, I have a reason for it.
Yeah.
That's the dream.
For sure.
I feel like everybody wants to be an alcoholic, but have a reason to be the alcoholic.
Yeah.
Well,
hey, no, I said I could be one.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like my doctor told me I was going to be addicted to something.
Yeah, it's totally fine. Don't worry about me.
It's like it was this or Coke. Mm-hmm. I'm making a good decision.
Yeah, yeah.
But I've had people, because of that, it's like people have kind of asked me, they're like, you don't really do too much, to like take away the the stress or anything. I'm like, well, you just kind of keep going with it. If you want to just mask everything, you can.
Yeah.
Some people are going to do that, but then it's going to suck even more when you can't mask it.
Yeah. And I think that this is what you just don't realize when you're in it, is when you mask the experience of life, suffering, the hardships of life, you're not actually experiencing the fullness of life. Mm-hmm. When that shit comes to you, it's a lesson. I mean, look at the growth that you've had in the past 2.5 years. If you wouldn't have, let's be honest, dude. Oh, yeah. You were on a trajectory there that was like, you were becoming the next Van Wilder, and you've never seen that movie.
That's way before my time.
Dude, that's what made Ryan Reynolds like a household name. But anyways.
I was the stereotypical college kid.
Is that what that was?
That's what I would consider myself.
Okay, all right. Well, I had a certain idea of what that was. A little bit different. But yeah, without this type of suffering in your life, you wouldn't be where you are right now. You wouldn't have started to reprioritize things and start looking at your life differently.
Right.
But like you said, you can look the other way too. Mm-hmm. And you'd be like, well, this is my excuse to just fuck it, give up. God, why? I'm blaming you for everything. And dude, that's a sad life, because that person does become 60 one day.
Right.
And they're the worst type of person, which is an old, grumpy person. Mm-hmm. An angry old man.
Right.
You got to do whatever you can in life not to be that. That's the goal. That's the real goal in life, is to be a happy-go-lucky old man. Mm-hmm. Confident in himself and just not angry at anybody, not expecting anybody to have done something for him.
Right.
That's tough to get to.
Right. I've had people who, like, they always say, you go to appointments alone, like all these things. It's like, why not? having somebody else go doesn't change it, my position. It's just like, it doesn't make sense. It's like, gotta just kind of get through it. You know, I'm told what to do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm told this is, you go to this at this time, you're here for this long, and you're just like, okay, whatever. But if you start trying to, like, I had to do, like 2 weeks ago, I had a bone marrow biopsy in the summer, and my doctor said, okay, I want to do another one. Just see if anything's changed. It's the most painful test I've ever had. I opted
bone
over
biopsy.
Yeah, over the summer, they were like, do you want anesthesia? I was like, how bad can it be? I showed up with no driver. They said, oh, that's the first time I've ever seen someone do this. I was like, what do you mean? Like, people always have a driver. I'm like, no.
Not me.
It's like, I have work later. I mean, it was horrible. They brought the drill out, drilled this thing to my bone, hammered it in. I'm like, oh boy. And then they go, the best part is after all that, they go, okay, the pain is going to start now.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that was the warm up. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then it's, 5 minutes the most pain you're ever in.
Yeah.
But 2 weeks ago, my doctor goes, okay, let's do another one. And I said, okay, can we just do it tomorrow? And he's like, oh, you want to just do it that fast? I'm like, oh, might as well suck it up. And they're like, how much anesthesia do you want this? I said, give me the smallest amount you can. And it was just like, I have to do it. There's no point in me trying to make this better for myself. Doesn't do anything. Okay, it might give me a little comfort in the moment, but it's like, I don't really need that.
Yeah.
You just got to suck it up. And it's like, that's kind of my whole mentality with all of this.
Yeah.
I remember like one of my friends picked me up and she was like, wow. Like my thing is always, I refuse to leave a place in a wheelchair or a stretcher.
Yeah.
So.
Or a stretcher.
I refuse.
Okay.
So when I was in the CT room, when they were doing the thing, they were done. They're like, okay, let's get the stretcher. And I said, I leave on a stretcher. If I'm in a body bag, that is it. Don't ever say that in a room full of doctors. Did not go over well.
Yeah.
But I walked down the hallway. This poor nurse is holding me up, pinned me against the wall, and was dragging me. But I was like, I walk out of here. And my friend, I was like, you don't touch me. I make it out of here on my own. The day I don't make it out on my own, I stay here forever.
That's funny.
And it's just like, that's just, I think, the way to do it. Don't count on other people to do everything for you.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's you're going through a lot, man, and I commend you for pushing through.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm proud of you. Because this time, like we've been talking, like it defines you.
Yeah.
The way you respond to it is going to define how you respond to everything else.
Right.
So you're doing a great job.
Yeah, thank you.
No matter what other people say. Well, dude, this was really good. I'm glad that you were able to talk about it. Hopefully, I know a lot of people are going to hear this and be like, wow, something similar like this has happened to me, or I know somebody, and it's going to be enlightening for some people because they don't.
Yeah, hopefully.
I mean, a lot of people, I haven't heard many people talk about the entire experience of going to 42 different doctors and all of them unable to acknowledge the one thing that it could possibly be that happened right after, but finally now they're, able to accept something.
Yeah, everyone's in agreement now.
Yeah. Well, this was good, man. I'm glad we did it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool.